Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Restoring the Kingdom podcast with your host, Noam Roth and Halsey English. We are going to be talking today about the black-pilling propaganda that has been coming out facing the state of Israel. It has, is, and will be a problem, but as of right now, it's getting pretty thick. Noam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. It is a beautiful Sunday. Looking forward to this and getting some information out there because wow, are they piling it on right now?
Yes, we have seen it heavily in, for example, like the Twitter sphere towards the US for a while. We've witnessed that for months, even some of us even years. Now they're shifting course, and it's very interesting that they're targeting Israel because, first of all, I have something bad to say about this and two good things
Go ahead.
because I do believe that it's a good sign. I'll start with the bad thing. The bad thing is that they clearly have access to our media. And what I mean, not necessarily that they work for our media or anything like that. Maybe some do. Wouldn't be surprised. But it's concerning to see how ridiculous headlines with no credible source, or sometimes the source is even less than credible because it comes, like we'll discuss, from clearly our enemies. They still push it out for the clicks. And that's something I would expect not in a time of war and not in a time of great instability like we have in Israel. Regular media, yes, sure, get your clicks. But at this time, it's scary to see that even some more reputable, it's not some, you know, celeb gossip, bi-monthly magazine. No, it's for example, call one out, even the Jerusalem Post regurgitated absolute lies. I would not expect. That's the bad thing. Two good things is one, I already see the Israeli society completely rejecting them as fake news. And it's funny that they use fake news even in Hebrew. They don't say, like fake chadashot or chadashot shav. They say fake news, which is again, that's part of the Trump effect in Israel. So that's one good thing that I see that already a lot in the beginning when it really started heavily, I would say around Thursday last week it was weird. It was a lot of fogginess, and a lot of people fell for it. Even a lot of people messaged me, and I messaged some people like, "What's going on?" But not even a week passed, and all of the channels last week that I've seen regurgitating these lines, are already just calling it fake news, and they're aware of what's happening. So that's one good thing. The second good thing is they are clearly panicking. Whatever they think is about to come to an end, they're sure more than ever that it's about to come to an end. And that's why they're also targeting Israel. So that's one bad thing and two great things that I've seen with this news.
So there's a couple issues. Number one, that I don't necessarily think it means they're panicking. I think that you have to understand the process of a media campaign, right? So it used to be that if you wanted to plant fake news into a news cycle, right, you had time to do it. So the better way to do it would be to quote a couple sources, place some well-placed information and build a campaign that will take like a good 24 to 48 hours before someone can get out there and debunk it. That was during the old days of newspaper or even nightly news, right? Because you basically had two news cycles within the day, the morning and the evening. And that was it because there just was no desire for people to consume more news. With the advent of the internet and cable news specifically, you now have multiple campaigns that start every 30 seconds. And not only can they not hold people's attention very long, but debunking them is next to impossible. Because by the time a story is ruled false, everybody's already moved on. So whoever needed the news shot to be reached out to, they're already the victims of these fake news campaigns. And that's why Trump is so nuts about tweeting all the time and trying to constantly talk to reporters. But if you look at you could just see the downside on Trump himself. He's constantly having to do this, as opposed to getting work done and opposed to, getting things done. He's not able to sit down with anybody because even when he sits down with, let's say, world leaders or on a phone call or with his cabinet, he's already thinking of how he's going to deflect the 50 different news reports that came out about what he's doing right then and there. So when you see these type of things that are going on with Trump and Bibi right now, this was pre-planned. This wasn't someone just woke up and decided to start pumping out a bunch of fake news articles. Like this is obviously something that was given a lot of thought. There was some money put behind it. Like they're doing a really good job of masking sources, which is like a dead giveaway that you're looking at a manufactured campaign. Israel is a subject of this constantly because even under the best of circumstances, most things related to Israel are security related. So, in order for the Israeli government, or at least someone who works for the Israeli government or something like that, for them to respond, they have to first go to the government and make sure what they're talking about is not embargoed information. They also have to make sure it's not a fishing expedition because if you say the wrong thing, you could give away troop positions, you could give away, battlefield ideas. Like there's a million things that you could wind up giving away. And you don't know what the goal of the campaign is. So you don't know what they're trying to get. And this all adds up. It really does. And what you're seeing right now is I think personally, and again, only time will tell. Right now, there's a momentum in the Trump administration to do something about Iran, whether it be to bomb them into the Stone Age, whether it be to make some kind of deal with them. Like we're not privy to his inner cabinet's workings other than what they tell us, which could be just as fake as the campaign that they're working on him. We know he's negotiating with them, but we don't know anything more than that as of right now. So is it that they're trying to prevent an attack on Iran? Is it that they're trying to give Iran more time? Are they trying to give Iran leverage? Are they giving time for Iran to buy more weapons from Russia? What is it that they're doing in order to try to discredit? It could just very well be that this was planned because you notice it right after the first 100 days, which is a benchmark of all presidencies. Like that's considered the first major milestone is the president's first 100 days in office. Targeted right for around that time. There were some lead ups to it, but those lead ups were very broad based and things like that. But right now, you're seeing a concerted effort because obviously Trump's going to be transferring more of his attention back to the United States. Congress is in session. He's going to be trying to get some of the Doge cuts put into law. He's going to be trying to get tax rates under control. He's trying to work with the Fed on interest rates. He's trying to do all of these things. And all of that necessitates that he pay less attention to foreign policy. It doesn't mean he doesn't have the team and power in place to do it. It just means he's going to stop focusing on it exclusively, where every question is about Israel or Iran or Russia or India, Pakistan. He'll start getting a lot more questions about domestic stuff, and when it comes to the foreign policy stuff, you'll see Marco Rubio getting them. You'll see Hegseth getting them. You'll see maybe Tulsi Gabbard getting them, but you'll see Trump doing it less and less. So they're trying to preempt this whole thing in order to make it seem as if the reason he's pivoting to national politics is because he's had a rift with Bibi.
Yeah, and again, a big possibility is that a lot of it is not only coming, but at least helped by the rogue group, I would say, in his administration that are, to put it in simple terms, just undermining his foreign policy, undermining his foreign policy goals. And you were talking about sources. There was one that really stuck out to me. We spoke about it earlier, but I'll mention it again because this is the level of, you said they're emitting sources, and they should, because if their sources are what I'm about to show, you better admit it. So, a headline that was making its circles on Saturday morning in Israel, from regurgitated by the Jerusalem Post, was that Trump is going to announce he's going to recognize Palestine as a country when he's going to visit Saudi Arabia.
Bullshit.
Yeah, which is it. again, first of all, to think that Trump himself will do it, or to make a connection to Saudi that is like Saudi has anything to do with this, or even cares, or even wants a Palestinian state is beyond laughable. But here comes the source to make it even more laughable. So the source is a news outlet called El Arabi Al Jadid, which is a
Hmm.
Qatari, not only Qatari backed, but Qatari funded. The headquarters are located in Doha, which already is a red flag for any news outlet. But this specific news outlet stands out because the founder and the current owner um, is, let me just get his name. It's owned by Fadat, which again, I'm not just owned by Qatar, but the founder is Azami Bishara, which he was a Knesset
He was
member
an
up.
yeah, I was about to say he was an MK, wasn't
Yes, he was an MK in Israel up to 2007, after which he got caught spying for Lebanon during the Lebanon War, and he fled Israel and relocated to Qatar, where he's safe, obviously, from Israeli hands. And that was the source. That's the credible source that Jerusalem Post decided to take the news from and run with it. And like I said before, if that's your sources, you better be omitting sources because that's not a source. That's the worst source I can possibly imagine. You should just ask Hamas while you're at it. It's the same thing.
I mean, I think that a big part of it too is that as of right now, they want to take what's going on. Like, look, Trump is not going to publicly recognize a Palestinian state. I'm not even sure if he can. I'm pretty sure there's a law that says that any recognition of a Palestinian state would have to come through negotiation and then ratified by Congress. Right. Now, I mean, he could do it like, oh, I'm going to fight for the recognition of the state by the United States government, or you could say that he intends to do it or something, but he can't just straight up do it. Secondly, if he did, his entire domestic agenda is shot because the Republicans will completely revolt against him. You'll see mass resignations in his cabinet. You'll see members of Congress telling him that he's not going to get anything passed. Like it will be a full out revolt if he were to go that far to try to prove a point. You'll see, like he'll be on the same level as Biden would be when Biden had that debate where he couldn't speak English. You know, that's the level he'll be on if he tried to do that. And I say that with 100% confidence.
And again, it's something we forget is the point you touched on now, is we're so fixated with, and it's just me trying to look at stuff, the future in a more positive light, because I truly am positive that the future will be positive. We keep focusing on the separatists in Trump's movement, the Tucker Carlsons, the Marjorie Taylor Greene, the idiots of all kind. And
Hmm.
we keep forgetting that the rest of 99% of the people around him not only respect Trump's agenda, not only about Iran, but about Israel. They agree with it. That's what they want. As a proof for it, we can see now Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton coming up with a bill that will make it any deal with Iran invalid if they get to keep any of their nuclear program, or at least their centrifuges. And now I'm finally happy with Witkoff's shift. Until now, he was very flippy floppy, as he always is. He's a very flippy floppy guy. Um, but recently, and I mean specifically this weekend, coming up to the last rounds of talks, according to him, which are right now happening in Oman, is that Iran cannot have anything. And it's not, hey, we
Hmm.
can work out a plan, we can reach something, or the talks are going great. No, it's they cannot have anything. They cannot have a nuclear program, they cannot have centrifuges, they cannot have any uranium enrichment to any degree, not even a civilian degree. Um, and I'm very happy with this change because I think they're finally realizing they even just like Iran even stated after the Witkoff statement, and just like they stated today, Iran is not going to give up on what they call their rights, which is a nuclear program. And they're not going to. Nothing will convince them to separate from what they see is the only strength happening between them and, first of all, Israel completely taking them out. And second of all, them completing their conquest of taking over the rest of Middle Eastern strategic locations that they want. Um, so I'm very happy with this sentiment change from Witkoff, and I hope it will stay also these negotiations that will probably amount to nothing. They will probably come out empty-handed like they did every single other negotiations in the last 2 months that we had. And I don't believe anything will change today, and I hope to see that same exact sentiment stay.
So I think you're seeing something different as well that you can tell from the media change. When Obama was negotiating with Iran, right? The goal wasn't necessarily a good deal. It was just a deal, right? His humiliation if he couldn't reach any deal overrode his desire to have a deal that would actually even work or make sense. So he just lied about the deal. And Iran knew this. So they have ways when they're constructing these deals to keep certain details under wraps. And when they come out later, again, it's the news cycle's over and people have already moved on. So what Iran has always done is they've differentiated between a military and a civilian nuclear program. And when they're talking about a deal, they talk about, oh, we'll allow full open inspections, we'll allow the monitoring of our enriched uranium, things like that. But that only applies to their civilian program, which they claim they don't have a military program, right? So when the United States and the rest of the world community says, well, we want to inspect the different areas where you're suspected of having enriched uranium facilities, they just claim it's not true, and that the reason the U.S. wants to get in those places is just to undermine Iranian security by being able to see the insides of their bases and how they work and things like that. So Obama was willing to just lie about it. He was willing to say, okay, well, we just want an inspection of all declared nuclear sites. Okay, well, you can have that because they're not doing anything nefarious in any of those places. And when they announce that they've enriched certain amounts of uranium to 60, 70, 80, 90%, they don't say how much. They just say they've done it. So if even if they said, well, turn over your enriched uranium stocks, whatever they turn over is obviously not going to be all of it. So, but Trump is actually looking for a deal. He needs a reason to say yes, not a reason to say no, right? Because he will have zero support amongst the Republican Party for an Iran deal that's toothless like the Obama one was, right? Like the Obama deal basically guaranteed that even if they did nothing, that Iran would have a nuclear bomb within 10 years. And Obama was fine with that because he would be long out of office by then. Trump is not the same. Like Trump is not just looking for a deal that makes it look like he's doing something, but he isn't. So the Iranians know when they're negotiating with him, there's not going to be any of this wink, wink, nod, nod of differentiating between civilian and nuclear and, kind of, well, maybe they'll be able to inspect this or inspect that. Like it's going to be a solid deal if there's going to be a deal, which means there won't be because Iran is not going to give up on its nuclear ambitions. Its nuclear ambitions are the only thing right now that are keeping them in the game at all. And again, this is something that has always been a fear of the Saudis. And I have to say, the more I talk about it, the more I'm starting to worry about it a bit with Iran. Is the Saudi bomb, right? They have enough money, they could just go buy one. Like, if they really, really wanted to, they can get one of whether it be Pakistan, whether it be North Korea, whether it be Russia, whether it be Ukraine, they can purchase a bomb because they could spend any amount of money they want on it, right? And the West, while they wouldn't enjoy the fact that they have it, they're not necessarily concerned that Saudi Arabia is going to, shoot a rogue nuke at Tel Aviv or anything like that. So with Saudi Arabia, it would most likely be mostly for defensive purposes. Iran could probably do the same. It'll just be much harder because the world community, if they tried and the world community got wind of it, they would do everything in their power to stop it, including military action. So if Pakistan said, "We'll sell you a bomb, don't worry," the U.S. knows where all their bombs are, and they would be able to follow it, and they would know where it was going, and they would retaliate against Pakistan and Iran. Same thing. Now, the only ones they can't respond to are North Korea, right? Because North Korea doesn't give 1/10 of what shit with what America or the UN or anyone else says. And there's been nuclear cooperation between Iran and North Korea for 20 years now, because is not very good at developing ballistic missiles. Iran is. And supposedly Iran was developing the ballistic missile capability because they stopped from doing that. And North Korea was developing the nuclear capability, and they were talking about technology. But again, without the fuel for it, it doesn't matter. And Iran doesn't have supposedly yet. So these propaganda intended, again, we how long have we been talking about this? They're intending to buy time. And I don't know why Russia and Iran and China and all nations want time, but the fact that they do want it makes me nervous in and of itself.
And their time is about to run out. And we might see even more upping of the pressure, more upping of the propaganda campaigns. And I want to touch on something that you said about that the U.S. knows, unlike Obama, or maybe Obama probably knew and didn't care, that Iran does have other facilities where they do, as you called it, their nefarious stuff. And on Saturday, there was a supposed leak. Again, no leak is a real leak, but there was a leak to Fox News of a secret Iranian nuclear site that we didn't know about. And of course, we did. Of course, the US did. Of course, Israel did. Of course, they did. Um, I see this as a way to show the Republican base as, look, you really can't trust these guys. Even if they say they will accept a deal, they'll just hide a nuclear facility from you. Maybe not from us, but from you. They're lying to you, the American people. We know that they're going to lie. So we already don't trust them. So don't expect a deal. That's at least how I read it, because no leak is a leak. Leaks are leaked at crucial times for crucial reasons. And that's what I think the reason is. And about the nuclear, and it will, in the last few minutes, we'll probably dismantle all the propaganda, because it needs to be. And it's beyond belief about the Saudi nuclear, Trump lowering again, as you said earlier, on the space that we were on, that was a requirement by Biden. That wasn't a Saudi requirement. That was Biden tacking it on to the agreement, saying, "Here, just do anything." Like for Abraham Accords, just tack anything that Israel won't agree to. It was a recognition of Palestinian state, a civilian nuclear program, and Israel doesn't actually require. Israel doesn't care if Saudi has a civilian nuclear program. They shouldn't, and they don't. Just like you said, if Saudi wanted a nuclear bomb, they can. They can get one. It's not a problem for them. If they want their own program for civilian use, again, you're more, so maybe you can go a bit more into detail why. But it shouldn't concern Israelis, because if they do use it for civilian purposes, we'll know about that. Can you expand a little bit, maybe to explain why?
So there's a bunch of reasons, but with Saudi Arabia, there's a couple things. One, Saudi Arabia is not waging any offensive war anytime soon. They have no intention of it. It's not their kind of country, and since their entire economy floats on oil, the last thing they need is the disruption of a offensive war distracting them from pumping oil and selling oil. Secondly, the issue with Arabia is this: any war against Iran is most likely going to entail Iran attacking Saudi oil fields. Now, this isn't a death sentence to it. I mean, to Saudi Arabia. It just means that there'll be a while in rebuilding that they won't be making as much money, right? But it'll also stress their vulnerability, because attacking Saudi Arabia is not attacking Israel or the U.S. It only requires short range missiles, which they have, and oil fields are notoriously flammable. So, the near misses can turn into really deadly fires very, 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 very fast. Now, what happens with Saudi Arabia is that if they want a deal with they don't care about the Palestinians at all. They don't. They actually don't even care about any other countries other than themselves. And I don't say that in a way like, oh, they'll do what's in their own interest. Like they really could care less. If tomorrow Israel said that they were going to nuke all the Palestinians, the Saudi Arabians, they might bitch about it a bit, but they wouldn't care if we did. The real thing they're worried about is, and this I talk about all the time, is that America and by its proxy Israel are really, really, really shitty allies to have when it comes to this stuff. Because an American guarantee of military assistance is meaningless when they have so often just gone back on it, especially the further and further it gets away from that deal actually being signed. So if they sign an idea, like Saudi Arabia's wanted this forever and they just haven't gotten it yet, they want to be included in the US's nuclear umbrella, meaning if that any other country nukes them, that the US will cover them, right? That they'll retaliate against that country for them. Obviously, they haven't done it because they're afraid of the fallout with Russia and Iran. But Saudi Arabia needs to know that if they go into the Abraham Accords, that Iran will not be able to use the Palestinians as a justification to attack Saudi Arabia when things die down, and America might not be so interested in doing anything to Iran at that point. Because remember, circumstances change all the time. So Saudi Arabia is very cognizant of the fact, especially because it's happened to them recently by the Democrats. Saudi Arabia is very cognizant of the fact that America could turn their back on them very, very quickly. So the last thing they want is to sign the Abraham Accords with Israel. The Palestinian issue is not in any way resolved. The Iranians use the Palestinian issue as an excuse to target Saudi oil fields. And then Saudi Arabia loses billions upon billions of dollars in lost production. They lose engineers. They lose all kinds of stuff. So that's why it made no sense that newspapers were reporting that in order for there to be a joining of Saudi Arabia into the Abraham Accords, that it would either have to be that Israel finishes off Hamas or finishes off Iran or attacks Iran. And the reason for that is, as I said, because they want to know that their oil fields are not going to be targeted by Iran over the Palestinian issue. So without Israel having the balls to do that, Saudi Arabia is not going to accept a what's it called? A deal that opens them up and doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and with the last few minutes, I think we need to stress this. Let's go over all the points that I can remember right now and reassure whoever's listening to this. I'll go and I guess in receding order, from the latest one I heard. No, Trump is not going to meet um Abu Mazen in Saudi. He's
No.
not. No. Trump is not going to recognize a Palestinian country when he's in Saudi. No. The two bombers left Diego Garcia not because they don't want to bomb Iran. What reason would you give to this as someone that knows more about way more than me about military structure? What would be the rational reason why the two bombers left Diego Garcia, in your opinion?
Probably maintenance.
Yeah, anything like that.
Or there's
Um,
a million things. Remember, America has 21 B-2 bombers in service right now. Now, at any time, those bombers could be needed anywhere or to fly training missions. But remember, they don't need 21 B-2, B-1 bombers or B-2 bombers to take out Iran. In fact, they don't even really need the B-2s at all. The only a deep penetrating bunker buster on Iran, and they only need one or two to do that. And I think they have nine there. So I wouldn't consider it anything. Someone brought it up to me yesterday, like, "Oh no, he's removing the B-2 bombers," and I was just like, "Yeah, whatever. That's meaningless." Putting them there in the first place was more of a show of force than the idea of keeping them there. There's no reason why we would want to keep all those bombers in Diego Garcia, especially when you have India and Pakistan heating up over there. And should we get involved, we don't want any of those countries targeting Diego Garcia, even if they know it'll bring an American response. Remember, Pakistan's notoriously unstable, and a switch in a coup there could signal a launch of missiles. And again, we don't want all our eggs in one basket. And we could have F-35s to take off of aircraft carriers that could do just as well of a job in Iran as a B-2 could. And as I said, one or two B-2s is all we need to drop bunker busters to get their in mountain programs. So
Well,
I don't consider it a big deal.
yeah, so here you go. This is that one. Let's see any other ones that we heard. Yeah, the biggest one, the ones that is regurgitated the most. The supposed rift between Netanyahu and Trump. And it's a bit shameful. Some geopolitical analysts, quote unquote, on social media. I remember there was an account this morning that posted an article that he wrote about the Trump BB rift, and a big account, not small. I don't remember exactly, something like 70,000 followers, quote unquote, geopolitical analyst. And I replied to it like, no, there is no rift. Obviously, there isn't one. You're just falling for Qatari propaganda. I said something also about Russian propaganda because the dude was based in Moscow, American
Mhm.
based in Moscow. Should tell you a lot. And he replied to me, well, so what do you make of the Americans agreeing to not attack the Houthis? And here's another point that we should cover is that, again, the stated goal and the stated reason, and no one should think otherwise because it would be incorrect. The incorrect assumption would be that the US went there to protect Israel. That one, no, Israel is fully capable of protecting and destroying the Houthis alone. Again, as I said, that one Israeli hit did probably more damage than all of the American hits on Yemen combined. That's probably because, well, we had over a year of Biden that they basically targeted shacks in the middle of the desert. But the stated goal, the stated reason was clear from the beginning. Houthis are threatening global shipping, which is a massive, massive part of the American economy. That's why America went through. In the second that the Houthis agreed to not target international shipping, American ships, Israeli ships, whatever, then there is no reason for the U.S. to be there. It's Israel's job, and Israel's doing a good job at, first of all, taking down the one missile a week that somehow the Houthis found that under their, got piles and decided to shoot at us. That's one. Second, Israel is fully capable of doing the trip to Yemen and knocking down their airport like we've proven that we could do last week. And I answered to him that, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for." And it's impressive to me how so-called analysts they'll rush to spread the most clickbaity propaganda. Oh, this literal celeb gossip. Oh, there's a rift between Netanyahu and Trump. No, there isn't. Why would you think that? Oh, the Houthi thing. Really? Really? So you saw a headline. You obviously there was no reason or actual anything of substance in the headline. So you made your own connection, which is a retorted connection to make anyways. But and it goes back to notice all those talking points. They don't have any substance. Why did Trump stop talking to Netanyahu? No, he didn't. As the great Mike Huckabee, Ambassador Mike Huckabee said last week, Bibi talks to Trump more than him, and he's his ambassador. From everyone close that I've heard close to Netanyahu or close to Trump, no, the two haven't stopped talking, not whatsoever. Some say they
They're
even
not going
talked.
to stop talking. As I said,
Yep.
it's going to be a case where it was happening anyway. And again, it's the rift between Trump and Netanyahu is so manufactured that if it were real, if there was even the hint that it were real, you would be seeing Republican congressmen and senators all over the news channels talking about how this is a betrayal and how Trump's not doing the right thing and how they support Trump when he's doing good, but they're not going to support him when he's doing shitty. That would be all you would hear constantly. And you're not hearing
Yep. So to close it all, really,
it. Hmm.
all the propaganda, all the all the misinformation, all of this BS, stop with it. Especially Israelis. You're not helping anyone. We're gonna do great. We're going to restore the kingdom together. So stop worrying. Stop falling for leftist BS headlines that are just there to pay their writers. It's incorrect. You know it's incorrect. So please,
Knock
let's
it
just
off.
continue on. Yeah, let's knock it off. Let's have fun. Let's have some fun together. We're going. Come on. We're destroying Gaza. We're bringing back some. We brought back the hostages. We're gonna try to bring back more. We're amassing soldiers, tanks, Yechidot that haven't been there ever. We're amassing them right now at the border with a clear statement that we are going to take out Hamas and, according to Bibi, ship all of these assholes, and it includes not just Hamas, to a third world country. So that's not the time for blackpilling. It's not. We're going to do great. The kingdom will be restored. Stop worrying about it.
And that's all we got for this week. Thank you very much for joining. Please subscribe to the channel and share this around so that you can get our message out. We're going to have a lot more coming, and it's been a great podcast. Thank you very much, Noam.
Thank you, Halsey.
我宁可生在那地，了，搞什么生意？我不过做生意。